Today, we're talking about the biggest mistakes programmers make when looking for a job. The first mistake that can make a job search as a programmer take a long time is not doing research on the company that invited you for an interview. If you say something like, I don't really know anything about your company and I don't care as long as you pay me, you have no chance. Employers aren't interested in such candidates because they are not loyal to the company. They don't care where they work and might leave for a company that pays $100 more after months. Why invest in someone who didn't even bother to learn about the job they're applying for? There's a high chance they will end up on a project they don't like and quit because of it. Even if you genuinely don't care about which company or project you're working on for some reason, there is something wrong with you. I advise you to think about your motivation. If you believe that money is your only motivation, that's bad. It's a path to burnout. Another mistake that can make your job search as a programmer take a long time is only applying to large companies. It's worth it for any newcomer to work in both large and small companies. Each case has its advantages and disadvantages. In large companies, you always have someone to consult with. You can always see how someone in the exact same position as you works. You usually have more complex tasks that you're heavily focused on. Consequently, you have the opportunity to learn. However, you often have a narrow area in which you work. In a small company, it's the opposite. You usually have a very broad area that you work on. In most cases, a programmer also has to perform some administrative functions and maybe even do design work. But it's not as deep because small companies usually don't tackle overly complex tasks. You're much closer to the management and see how the company is structured overall. You can directly communicate your ideas to the director, which is generally impossible in a large company. Also, in a small company, there's usually no one to learn from. Often you simply can't ask anyone. Advancing your career in a small company is often limited. There is simply nowhere to go. But if you're a newcomer, apply even to a company that consists of just one person because it's still commercial experience. Another mistake that can make a job search as a programmer take a long time is the absence of a professional online profile. For example, LinkedIn is essential for any developer. If a recruiter looks at your resume and there is no link to your LinkedIn profile, half of their impression of you as a professional is lost. You immediately come across as an outsider, like a passerby. Another mistake that can make a job search as a programmer take a long time, and this is especially important for those switching careers, is not leveraging your connections to the fullest. Everyone should know that you're looking for a job, but even for those already in the industry, this is crucial. Not fully utilizing your networking is a big mistake. If you're over 15 years old, you definitely have valuable contacts. Acquaintances with whom you worked, crossed paths, or studied form your network. You should have many such contacts. 1,000 acquaintances are much better than 10 friends because among them, there's bound to be someone with an interesting job, offer, or project. Someone might give you valuable advice or a tip. So continuously develop and maintain your connections. How can I possibly keep in touch with 1,000 people? Simply manage your social networks. Stay visible so people remember you. Remind them of your presence. Congratulate them on birthdays. Reach out every few years. It's normal for networking. These people should be in your common connections across all the social networks you're on. Share information about yourself, like that you're looking for a job, so all your contacts see it. Don't stop there. If you know someone in your industry who might know about a suitable vacancy, write to them personally. Hey, I'm looking for a job. Maybe you have some advice. A resume sent through a current employee of a company has at least 10 times more chances of being noticed. Another mistake that can make a job search as a programmer take a long time is not preparing a suitable answer to the question, tell me about yourself. This question will come up in any interview, and 3 out of 4, if not 4 out of 5 people don't know how to answer it. Think about it. You'll definitely be asked. Talking about yourself doesn't mean starting from kindergarten. That's not interesting to anyone. Your self-introduction should follow this plan. First, talk about who you are now. For example, I work at company A in position B with this tech stack for so long, and during this time I've completed so many projects. Or, I recently joined this company, and before that I worked at company C with this tech stack. In other words, the narrative goes in reverse order, not chronologically like your resume. No one is interested in what you did at your first job. Talk about your last 2, maximum 3 jobs. your current one, the previous one, and one more before that. No need for more. You can add something about hobbies, but I think it's unnecessary. Firstly, it's likely already in your resume, and secondly, they probably won't ask. If they do, then answer. But don't clutter the narrative. Prepare this narrative. Interviewers get really annoyed when someone starts talking about how they got interested in programming in kindergarten in response to the question, "Tell me about yourself." Another mistake that can make a job search as a programmer take a long time is having bad reviews about former employers. Honestly, I must warn you, the likelihood of being hired if you make such mistakes is close to zero, if not zero at all. Even if your previous employer was terrible, it's not worth saying anything negative about them. You can state facts. For example, I left my previous job because they were late with salary payments. That's a fact. But saying they were such vampires, always late with my pay, is not okay. No judgments, just facts. A potential employer listening to your reviews about your previous job is wondering, is this how they'll talk about us when they leave? Imagine someone listening to you with this mindset. Facts, please. For instance, I left because there were leaks from above and rats running around. You can and should mention this, but without evaluative opinions. Even if the atmosphere in the team was toxic, say neutrally, I didn't enjoy working at the company, I didn't find opportunities for growth. Another mistake that can make a job search as a programmer take a long time, although it's unlikely to be the reason for rejection, can be quite annoying nonetheless, and you don't want to irritate a potential employer. It's using trendy buzzwords, especially if you're from different generations. If you start sprinkling youth slang or conversely sharing jokes from the 90s with people who weren't even born then, there will be problems and misunderstandings. Be careful with this. Try to stick to a neutral and universally understood language. Another mistake that can make your job search as a programmer take a long time is not sending a thank you letter after the interview. It's common practice to send a thank you letter after an interview. This makes sense if the interview went relatively well. If you feel that everything went really badly, perhaps it's better to quietly withdraw. But I hope you didn't have such an experience. If the interview went well and you would like to work there, it's a very good idea to send a letter. In the letter, you can write something like, "Thank you for the interview. I found it very interesting and enjoyable to talk with you. I'm really looking forward to a positive response because I would love to work in such a great company." Another mistake that can make a job search as a programmer take a long time is the absence of recommendations. The easiest way to get recommendation is through LinkedIn. Here's how you do it. During your previous job, you interacted with colleagues and, at the very least, with your supervisor. Recommendations from former supervisors are highly valued. Write to them. "Hey, Greg, David, Jack, I need a recommendation. Could you leave it on LinkedIn?" Attach the text they should use for the recommendation. In my experience, in this case, more than 50% of people will leave you a recommendation. However, if you simply ask, "Could you please leave me a recommendation?" without providing the text, maybe 1 out of 100 will write one for you. Unless you were close friends or they feel guilty about your departure. In all other cases, they will say sure and forget about it. No one will invest time in someone who isn't currently important to them. Write the text for them. If you can't write them yourself, use ChatGPT or Copilot as an example. Another mistake that can make a job search as a programmer take a long time is not asking your own questions during the interview, meaning not showing interest. It's crucial to appear interested in the job. Someone who doesn't ask any questions appears indifferent. Before the interview, think about what questions to ask and make sure to ask them. For example, about overtime, vacation time, medical insurance conditions, work schedule, responsibilities, who you'll be working with, the team's origins, and the project specifics. Don't ask a dozen questions. That will be too much. Aim for 3 to 4 questions at most, with 1 or 2 questions as a minimum.